Why did Southern pass a new policy that keeps students who are not in quarantine from Zooming in online?
Also, is the recent spike in corona cases the result of this change?
Consider that conversation ignited. Hey guys, welcome to the first ever episode of Ignite. My name is Aaron Patterson. I am a media production major and sophomore at Southern Adventist University.
Hi guys, my name is Sarah Manuel. Thank you so much for joining and tuning in to this show. A little bit about me, I am also a sophomore here at Southern and I am majoring in advertising.
Now, before I introduce the topic, I want to take a second and introduce the show since this is in fact the first time we have ever done this. This is Ignite.
Yeah, so you guys are literally watching history in the making. I think that's pretty cool.
Last semester, Sarah and I were taking a digital media class wherein the professor assigned us a end of the year project that kind of had us create an entire show, produce, write, script, all of it for a very specific audience with a very specific impact.
Yeah, so while we were working on this project, we realized that Southern really had no TV or program that was made by the students for the students. So initially, this led to the birth of Ignite.
Ignite is for you, and it's by us, but it's kind of also by you. The goal is to dive into a bunch of difficult conversations, taboo subjects, have student testimonials. I might do Sarah's makeup at some point. It could go anywhere. In light of all this confusion, today we have invited a special star guest to come in from the School of Education and Psychology, who actually is going to be representing the subcommittee that helped make this decision.
Yeah, but hold on. Before we get to that part, we have a little treat for you guys put together by Cassie, who's on the field with a little PSA. So Cassie, are you there?
Thanks, Aaron and Sarah. Hi guys, it's Cass, and we are outside the Student Center. Let's go in and see what the students are up to. Thank you. All right. Thank you so much. So yeah, kids just come in here. You can eat your lunch here if you want, obviously following COVID guidelines. You can do your homework here if you want, obviously following COVID guidelines. But do you see this? Hey, can you put your mask up? Can you put your... Guys, wearing your mask under your nose is not wearing your mask. So you wear your mask the right way. Sorry about that, guys. That's probably a one-time thing, you know? It's a little more quiet down here, a little more relaxing. Have a great view of the campus, have a great view of Tennessee. But like I said, there are COVID guidelines. These tables get cleaned, the plexiglass gets cleaned, and your face masks have to be worn at all times unless you're eating. So, hey, are you eating? Where's your mask? Put your mask on. You know what? It's like she wants to get sent home in a week. It's like I'm about to call the president on her. All right, we're back up at the Student Center. And honestly, I did not think there would be this many people breaking COVID rules. Dude, did you just sneeze and take your mask off to sneeze? That's not protecting anyone. Guys, there's only so much we can do. We all need to do our part and wear your mask properly, please. You know what? I'm done here. Aaron and Sarah, back to you guys. This is Cassidy Connolly. I'm done. Cut the cameras.
Cassie, that was absolutely beautiful. Thank you so much for that.
Yes. So here we have with us Professor Guest Star, if you'd like to introduce yourself.
Well, thank you. My name is Tron Wilder. I teach in the School of Education and Psychology, and I teach primarily in the psychology program. Yeah, well, first of all, I just want to say thanks for having me, guys. I think this is really cool what you're doing. I wish you great success in it.
Thank you.
I hope that no one watches this first episode that I'm on, at least, but in future episodes, I hope you get a lot of...
Thanks, we appreciate that.
Yeah. Yeah, I was on the subcommittee that addressed the attendance policy and updated it, and I'm assuming when you say this decision, you're meaning primarily the decision that was made to allow professors to attach points to attendance, right? Yeah. And I think that's been the hot topic of discussion. And so how and why was that made? Well, I think first we start with like, why was there a new updated attendance policy for this semester in the first place? And I think that resulted from a lot of professors noticing that students last semester were just not attending their classes, even students who weren't in quarantine or feeling sick. And we started to notice that huge drop in attendance. And we were thinking, well, what might be causing that? And I think, and a lot of our other people on this subcommittee attribute it to the fact that professors were not allowed to require students to come, or at least not allowed to attach points to their attendance. That was one of the #1 reasons. And probably coupled with that was the fact that professors were also live streaming every class via Zoom for those students who were either in quarantine or feeling sick. And so those two things combined, I think, to create a culture in which students probably felt like they didn't want to go to class, and so they could just live stream class, they could Zoom in, as you will, and that drop in enrollment occurred. And I think near the end of the semester, professors were getting really concerned because they were noticing not only were students not coming, but grades were dropping as well. And I think a lot of professors seemed to connect those two dots and think that there was some causality there. The administration eventually tasked Dr. Tolbert with putting together a subcommittee to come up with a way to address this problem. And that's what we did. We met several times over the course of the end of the semester and developed this updated policy.
So that subcommittee, was it made up mainly of professors, or was there faculty, staff, admin on it as well?
Yeah, so the way that worked was along with the administration tasked the president of our faculty senate to put together this subcommittee. And we met 4 or 5 times over the course towards the end of last semester and developed a proposal policy. We sent that along to administrators who kind of took that policy and edited it, made a couple minor changes, and then that policy went before the entire faculty senate, who voted on it and approved it for the current semester. That was the process that it went through.
So Southern's main goal in this was to make it clear that you do have an option to Zoom if you're feeling sick or you're in quarantine, but it's not just for a day that you're feeling tired.
Yeah, I think that was what we were trying to accomplish. You know, we had in our sort of small group task force that was working on this policy, we had a couple of goals, or a couple of priorities, I would say. The #1 priority was students' safety. And so what we wanted to do was even though we wanted to encourage students to come to class, we wanted to discourage students or even require students who weren't feeling well or who were maybe symptomatic to not come to class. So that was our #1 priority, and we felt like we were able to do that with this policy, which basically does require you, if you're feeling sick, to not come to class. But we did have some other priorities, and that was to encourage students who weren't feeling sick or who weren't in quarantine to come to class. And another priority that we had was to give professors back the ability to sort of create their own attendance policy. If a professor wants to attach points to attendance because they feel like it's important for students to be in class, then we wanted those professors to be able to have that ability to do so. If a professor is the type of professor who thinks, I don't really think I should be requiring students to come to class, they can come to class if they want, or they don't have to if they can do well in the class without attending. We wanted those professors to have that ability. So those were probably our main priorities and what we were trying to accomplish.
I didn't know there was an option there. Like from professor to professor, they kind of get to decide whether or not they want to require. I mean,
yeah, you may have been in some classes where the professor doesn't, well, this was pre-COVID. We're all required to take attendance now, even if we don't use that for points, because of contact tracing.
Makes sense.
So that's really why all professors now are taking attendance. In the past, some professors never took attendance.
Yeah, because I do have a class right now where the professor has days where attendance is required and when it's not. So I thought that was pretty cool.
Whether or not professors have a responsibility to require students to come to class. You know, you guys are adults. You ought to be able to make your own decisions. And we talked about that in the subcommittee. And, you know, look, we eventually decided that that's not what we were here to discuss. That's really more of a philosophical approach.
That's another conversation for another day.
It is another conversation, although it is something that we talked about. We really were focused on allowing professors, whatever they felt like with regards to that issue, to be able to decide one way or the other. I personally do like to incentivize my students to come to class because a part of what I think makes my classes unique is class discussions, class interactions with each other. You know, and so I can't ensure that that's going to happen if students aren't in classes. It's really hard to do that over Zoom. And if students are really getting the same experience that I want them to have, they need to be sitting there in class.
Yeah.
So this is the doozy question.
Okay.
Some of the students feel as if the recent spike in COVID-19 cases, positive cases, are due to the fact that they now have to come into class as opposed to being able to stay in their rooms and just Zoom. How did how do you address that?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think that's a good question. You know, look, we did have a spike in cases as represented by the emergency meetings that have been called over the past couple weeks. And you know, first of all, I'd say the subcommittee probably didn't anticipate a lot of things. We didn't anticipate this being as controversial as it did end up being over the course of the break. And so we didn't really anticipate that, because to us, it wasn't a big shift. I mean, there was always the expectation that students who aren't sick or in quarantine are going to go to class.
Yeah.
But what we noticed was there was a culture that seemed to exist last semester that's not an expectation. And so we wanted to shift back towards that, to the old expectation that students should go to classes. And so we weren't anticipating that. I don't think we anticipated this spike in cases, but you know, we're not health experts, but I don't see, if I'm looking back on this, I don't really see any way that this change or shift back to what the policy was prior to COVID could have caused that, you know, and I would say that for a couple of reasons. Number one, we're still requiring students who are sick, in quarantine, or have any feelings that they might be sick to not come to class. I mean, and you don't have any repercussions for that. And so I don't see how that could cause a spike, number one. Number two, I think, you know, it's been shown that our classrooms are really some of the safest places on campus to be for a number of reasons. You're required to have masks to be in the classroom. We check your armbands, or we try to remember to check your armbands every single day, right? You're distanced as much as possible in those classrooms. Every classroom has been outfitted with, you know, all these new kind of air quality issues that are filtering in the classroom. And so, number one, I don't see how that could be contributing. The other thing that I would say is that this spike in cases is not unique to Southern. It's following a trend that's locally in Hamilton County. I mean, we've had a huge spike after the holidays, and national trends where we saw this spike occur after people were traveling over the holidays and being around their family members, and that there were new variants of the virus. And so I think we've really followed that same pattern, which has also started trending down as it has locally and nationally. And so I really don't see that this policy has anything at all to do with that.
I didn't think about it that way.
Yeah. So as a member of the subcommittee and as a professor here at Southern, what would you say to students who have concerns about this issue?
By all means, go, you know, express your frustrations. Go through the channels that have been set up for you to express those frustrations. We have a student essay senate. We have a student essay president, Cheryl Cambuni. She happens to be a psychology major. She happens to be my advisee.
Little plug.
Talk to your senators, talk to your essay president directly. Talk to the administrators and voice your concerns. But be sure that those concerns aren't just out of frustration, but are based on evidence, because that's what the professors tried to do when they made these policies.
Well, we are so incredibly appreciative for you coming out today and explaining, giving us a little bit of insight into why the decision was made. And I mean, being on the subcommittee and helping us make decisions like these so we can stay in person here at Southern. Thank you so much.
No problem. It was my pleasure. Thank you for inviting me. I love being here on this set and talking to you guys.
It's nice.
It's great. It's really awesome. And I really wish you guys all the best with this new thing that you're getting off the ground.
Thank you. Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you for taking the time to speak with us again. Those of you online, thank you for joining us. Thank you for your views and thank you for your support. I hope that you will join us next time.
Hi everyone. With all the uncertainty and restrictions in today's world, and more specifically on this campus, it can be hard to remember the guidelines put in place to help protect you and those around you. Here are a few of the main ones. Firstly, please remember to do your daily symptom survey. Some of the questions on the survey have changed, so please remember to read each question carefully and answer truthfully. If you do not answer truthfully, you run the risk of putting the whole campus in jeopardy. Secondly, please remember to social distance. Please keep a 6-foot minimum between you and those around you. Lastly, please make sure to wear your face mask and wear it properly. A face mask is required indoor and outdoor in all campus spaces and must be secured over your nose and mouth.